Module 3, talking about principles of offense. This is where the fun begins. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start with the big three offensive tactics. We're going to go through them one at a time, give you some diagrams, kind of just prime your brain for when we're on the court and able to walk through this in person. But they might not be the big three that you thought they might be. Like most people think of ball screens as a primary action. But what I found with youth basketball is that it is pulling all the defense toward the ball and thereby making it much more difficult to score when they're at a young beginner level and trying to progress with some of our more simple offensive concepts. So drive and kick is first. Come down the court, attack the basket with a dribble, get a layup every time if you can. Start with the simplest thing first, and then if defense helps stop the drive, we kick. We get offense really easily out of that. Second is pass and cut. If we can't drive for whatever reason, we're stuck, we can pass, we can cut, and get an offensive moving again. And then what I call the third tier offense is a dribble at, where we are denied from driving. We can't really get a pass through the defense. Maybe they're denying us, so we're going to dribble at our teammate, get them to either back cut or come and take a handoff from us so we get moving again and, again, create offense, create space for each other by getting a dribble at. And then the second topic this week is the order of operations. Kind of what I just talked through on the team front. We're also going to talk about on the individual side how every player should have at least a basic framework in mind and get some repetitions with how to choose what should be option 1, 2, 3, what their order of operations is when they have the ball in their hands, and in some cases we'll work through what their order of operations is when they're off the ball, how they should decide if they're going to cut or screen or maybe stay still is the right choice. So, number 1, drive and kick, also known as the circle concept, common terminology of the dribble drive offense. There's a lot of different variations of that. But the baseline of it is, in my mind, that if you can get players to all move the same direction in a circle with space when a drive happens, you're going to create just about all the offense you need with that alone. And we're going to get a lot of detail into that. So the basic description I use for this is whichever hand the ball handler dribbles with equals the direction I should move as a player, a teammate of that ball handler. And you get players really synchronized around this concept, whether you're playing 3-on-3 at the 3rd and 4th grade level, or you're playing 5-on-5 at the 7th, 8th grade level with the addition of an inside man, what we call the dunker. You can do a whole lot of damage to other teams just kind of exploiting defensive psychology is kind of how I like to think about this. You're taking advantage of what a good defender should do and using it against them to create space and create really great offensive opportunities. So try to chant this to yourself, memorize it, get your players to be able to do it. Not so essential that they say it, but it's essential that you understand it and can kind of recite this definition so that you keep your players on track with how they're practicing it. So, we're going to see an example of what this looks like. Player drives to the right, other player circles to the right from their perception and gets a wide open layup under the basket. I'm going to show this clip again. We actually have an example here of driving left. Everybody's moving left, including the player that was on the perimeter. Then the drive right, we go the other direction. You see the defense stepped up to stop a drive like they should. I'm going to pause it here, just highlight this one. It's going to be one of our only video clips in this course where you get to see such a prime example. So defense is looking for the ball. He's stepping up to help stop the ball, and by doing so, he left his man wide open just because this guy is moving in a circle exactly the right time. So we talk about the three-part chain reaction. There's the drive, there's the defense reacting to the drive, and then there's the movement while the defense is not looking. I like to call it peekaboo with the younger age players especially. Move when your defender's not looking. You're going to be a disappearing act, and you're going to have some wide open scoring opportunities just like this. It's kind of magic happens when we get synchronized on this topic. Next, talking about drive and kick and what it does for our team. So kind of what you just saw as an example. It creates space. When we're all moving in a circle, we're never in each other's way, which I would say at the recreational level, if you're coaching a 3rd, 4th grade or a 5th, 6th grade boys or girls team, you got a lot of beginners. Having the players in each other's way is probably the biggest problem you have to solve on offense. If you simply get all your players synchronized as such that they're not in each other's way, they're going to do fabulously on scoring on offense. I like to think about it like a traffic circle, right? It gets teammates out of each other's way. It kind of gives us a universal rule, like a yield sign. If there's somebody coming driving with the ball, we are getting away from them by moving in a circle. And we can evolve that to have some exceptions to that rule that gives us, special circumstances and advantages by doing that. But if you think about it like a traffic circle, we're moving in a circle, we're yielding to the drive, and we're getting out of the way of the driver. You can do a lot of damage against any kind of defense with that. Number 2, again, it creates space. What you use that space for is up to you as a coach. Like, we can do a lot with space. I like to say we create space in order to attack space. So we're creating space to get open shots, to get cuts, and to get more drives, right? If we circle the drive and kick it out to somebody, and then they drive again with a disadvantaged defender, they're going to end up with a really good advantage by the time they take a shot. And then 3, it synchronizes all the players on the court with only one rule, right? So most of our set offense, what people spend a lot of time on studying and finding and practicing, is set plays or patterns that players are supposed to memorize. You go from A to B to C and player XYZ scores. But all that falls away when you get some pretty smart defenders and athletic defenders that can pick that apart and figure out where you're going with the ball and steal it. And so this allows us to just have one simple rule which says when the ball is dribbling, everybody moves in a circle the same direction as the dribble. And we're usually working hard on spacing by getting the players to be outside the three-point line when they're moving in that circle. A couple exceptions again. What we saw with the man under the basket is what we'd call in the dunker when we watched that video clip. He's inside, underneath the backboard, in the paint, and just moving in a smaller circle right around the basket, getting a lot of close range, what we'd call dish off or handoff passes, really short range passes in the paint where he can score very quickly. And so again, just synchronizing all our players by only having one rule on offense, you dramatically reduce the confusion of your team and thereby improve your efficiency, and you can get a lot done with simply that. Next, what does it do for our individual player? Well, one, it creates space for him. So, instead of driving into traffic, maybe 2 or 3 defenders and, crashing into them, throwing up a shot, kind of hoping for the best or complaining there was a foul, we just have our teammates pulling defense out of us. It's like parting of the Red Sea in front of a driver very often, and they get a lot of really easy layups because the defense is out of position, getting pulled out to guard their man, which is very common and, kind of where they should be defensively at the younger age groups. They're supposed to guard their man. When they stay with their man and the ball drives past them and scores, that's where we can get a lot done on offense. And then the second thing it does, if you don't have the ball in your hand, secondly, it creates 2-on-1 situations, right? So I would say like a poor defense is going to just hug their man that doesn't have a ball and leave the layup open. A little better defense is going to have that defender realize, oh, I have 2 jobs right now. I'm supposed to stop the ball, but I'm also supposed to stay with my man, and kind of whichever decision they make is wrong because the other player is going to score, right? That's the ultimate goal of all offense. One NBA coach that was a mentor of mine for a while said it exactly that way. Kind of the best definition of offense I've ever heard is all offense is designed to create 2-on-1 situations, and that's what we're doing here. If we can put that defender in the impossible situation that he can't guard 2 players at the same time, whichever one he chooses to guard if the other player makes the right decision, their teammate is going to get a wide open shot, right? So it's layup or wide open shot. The defender is really the deciding factor, and we don't care which one they choose. They're going to give up a pretty good shot either way. And number 3, it gives each player a clear cue to look for that tells them where to go every time. So something we work on a lot with our youngest age group, typically the 3rd through 5th grade program, we're working on watching the ball handler's hands, and which hand they dribble with tells us where to go. So right hand dribble means right, left hand dribble means left. If you evolve that to a really high proficiency, maybe with our 6th, 7th, 8th grade players, when the teammate dribbling the ball changes direction midstream of a drive, everybody is able to react to that and still move the correct direction. So ball handler's attacking right, everybody's initially circling around the three-point line, around the basket to the right. When they put on a crossover in the middle of the paint and go left, suddenly all their teammates react and move left. Really disorienting to the defense and provides some fantastic scoring opportunities. And one of the biggest problems we see with players on offense is they don't know where to go. Coaches are often shouting for them to move, but they don't know when to move or where to move or sometimes how to move. And this gives them some very clear directions. My teammate's dribbling left, I'm going to move left, stay ahead of them and in their line of sight. So if they need a person to pass to, I'm going to be it. And kind of self-reinforces, gives them that incentive when they are open and they catch a pass because they're open, they get more chances to shoot, and really can snowball to be one of the players' favorite things to do. All right, second action is pass and cut. So the second of our big 3 offensive tactics. We're going to talk about 4 reasons to cut. Trying to dig into a little bit of the why behind cutting so that, again, players are understanding the what, the where, and the why of what they're doing. So 1 is you pass from the middle of the court toward the sideline, meaning you're in the lane extended kind of out toward the top of the key. You're in the middle of the court. You're in the prime attacking zone. I like to call it the river flow. Make it a one-way street. There's a lot of analogies you can use, but I like to visualize the flow of water down the middle of the court and out to the corners on the sideline. And so if you're in that middle position and you just pass to the sideline, you should absolutely cut to the basket. And we're going to talk about when not to cut as well, kind of the counterpoint to that. 2 is you're in the paint, right? So maybe you already cut to the basket, or you were doing drive and kick. You drove to the basket and kicked out to somebody. You are now in the paint, under the basket. You're in the way, essentially, is how we could describe this. The best thing you can do is get out, cut to space, right? So destinations we're going to talk about in a second. Cutting to the basket, cutting to space. Third one is you are away from the ball, right? You're on the weak side of the court. You're too far away for anybody to see you or pass to you. So move toward the ball, cut toward the ball, what's commonly called a fill cut. And number 4, your defender turned their back to you. Equals cut to the basket. What we call a back cut, just because you're on the back side of the defense away from the ball. If your defender can't see you, you should cut to the basket, similar to what we just talked about with drive and kick. Whenever that defender is blind and you move, they have nearly impossible task to try and catch up and stop you again. And if we're all aware of this as a team, and you know your teammates pretty well over time, you can get really good at this. Anytime that defender's head turns or back turns toward you, cut to the basket, and we get layups all day long from that. 3 destinations to cut, what I just talked about briefly. The basket cut, right? There's really only 3. I try to simplify this as you can't cut towards a million different things. There's only 3 destinations you can cut towards. And I've tried to put a lot of thinking into this to make sure there's nothing missing, and I haven't found any yet. So if you can think of one, I'd love to hear it and upgrade my brain how I'm thinking about this. But 1 is basket cut. If you're outside away from the basket and you don't have the ball in your hands, cutting to the basket is always an option. We can talk about specifically when and when not to cut to try to optimize that with a team. But a basket cut is a great starting point. Players are stuck standing around looking at the ball, not sure what to do. Get them comfortable with cutting all the way to the basket, making themselves a threat. Number 2, space cut. What we talked about a second ago. Again, you're under the basket, you're in the way of the next teammate trying to attack, creating space by going away from both the basket and the ball. So if you can think about the ball is on the right side of the court and you're under the basket, you want to go to the left side of the court. You don't want to go away from the basket, but toward the ball, you want to go away from both. That's the best way to both get yourself out of the way and most likely pull your defender out of the way as well, so that your teammate has a better chance of attacking wide open space. And 3 is the ball cut, filling space. So again, wherever you are on the court, if you're far from the ball and you're far from the basket and there's space between you, there's a great chance to score and again attack the defense, put pressure on the defense by simply filling that space. So shortening the pass is one way to think about it for players. Creating an advantaged attack is another way. If you're standing far from the ball, your defender's probably out of the action and standing still. And so if you suddenly take off running toward the ball, you have a pretty big advantage to either catch and shoot it or be able to catch and attack by having that advantage. And again, shortening the pass is a great, a great objective for your team in general. The longer passes you throw, the slower passes you throw, the easier those are stolen. So having the thought in your player's mind that I need to shorten every pass to make it quick and more catchable before the defense gets there can just improve all kinds of different things about your offense. Whatever system you're running, my goal is to try to apply all 3 of these offensive tactics within that. Like, these are the universal principles that work no matter what offense you're working within. So let's visualize some of these with a pass and cut. If we pass to a wing, we would cut to the basket, right? Assuming we were in this position to start, we pass to our teammate over here, we cut to the rim. We are at the rim, the ball is over here, what I just described. We're cutting to space, away from both basket and ball, and then we get to complete the nice little triangle formation here by filling from far from both, filling toward the ball. So this would be our fill cut or our ball cut, just running toward the ball. We can do that a lot of different angles. But if you can get players kind of comfortable with this pattern, and you can start to tie in a lot of nuance to this. Like, we talk a lot about footwork for cutting, changing speed when cutting, trying to be unpredictable. You know where you're going, but your defender has no idea either where you're going to go or how fast you're going to get there. You can get open a lot easier by building in some skills layered on top of this pretty simple framework of having 3 destinations to cut to. All right, the third action, offensive tactic, dribble at. 2 actions we can do. We're going to talk about the setup for this and then kind of the counter move. So the back cut is the primary move, and I like to build the logic tree of defender is between ball and man, defender is not between man and basket, therefore cut to basket. The counter move is a handoff. So if the back cut is well defended, they've usually put themselves back in between the man and the basket enough that when that player returns toward a handoff, they have the defender trailing behind them and they have kind of a half-step advantage to go get the ball and get into an attack. So you can see this is the teammate, this is where the ball is. Say I'm the point guard, you're the wingman. I'm trying to pass to you. Your defender is denying this pass. They put their body out here between us so that I can't throw a pass to you without them stealing it. But by putting their body between us, they are taking their body out of position of where a good defender should be, between their man and the basket. And so what this player could do anytime, we talked about the back cut when your defender is has their back to you or is turned their head away from you. You could cut anytime, but to really synchronize this, to make this a intentional offensive tactic, all we need to do is get this player to dribble toward the teammate to signal that back cut. Right? We both recognize this player's in the way, I can't pass to you. You're going to hang out, wait, knowing it's coming. When I dribble and this defender tries to fight to make sure the pass is not coming, they step out, you step in and you head toward the basket on a back cut. We get a lot of open layups by just doing that. And we're going to talk later about the order of operations and kind of why I look at them and teach them in this order. It's kind of based on the progression of quality of defense that you're playing against. So we have the dribble, we have the pass denied first, right? Defender standing between man and ball. I'm going to walk through the diagram here now that I've described everything. Defender is not standing between the man and the basket, and so the conclusion is cut to the basket. So since they were denied, we're going to dribble at them, right? Just kind of repeating the sequence here with the dribbler now involved. So I'm dribbling at the teammate, they back cut. There's my pass. I was just trying to demonstrate with my cursor, back cut and bounce pass to meet them on their way to the basket. So then the counter move to this, the same setup happens, but the defense gets a little bit smarter and they go with this cut enough to deny it, right? So I was dribbling over to try and pass behind our defender initially, and they move to guard you on your way to the basket, so I can't throw this pass. And we both recognize that. We change this into a handoff. So you were starting to cut down in here. You're now going to come back up and around to take the ball out of my hands. And we can get really specific with body position and angles here. Baseline, basic version of this, I like to have the guy delivering the ball have their back to the basket so that the receiver of the ball is coming around the outside, most likely where the defense is not willing to go. The defense is going to go underneath to try and meet you. But if you go around the top and get the ball, you have a sense of momentum here where you're not coming from a standstill anymore. You're running through this catch and you've got an attack line going toward the basket where that defender is really at a disadvantage. And there's a lot of ways to both work on this on offense and to defend it on defense. But one of our favorite counter moves, if we're getting a hard deny and they're doing a good job of guarding the back cut when we attempt that, is to get into a dribble handoff and send this player running and dribbling into the middle with an attack, and often we'll end up with a layup or we'll end up with a drive and kick to our teammate sitting on the weak side. So lots of build out to doing this. They catch and drive after the receiver takes the ball. The last piece of this that we like to work on is to separate the ball somewhat like we would do on a ball screen here. So the ball handler received the ball from the handoff and attacked in. We want the delivery man of the ball to pop out. We're essentially splitting the defense in two different directions. What I like to call the rule of opposites. Anytime we have a screen action or a handoff action, we just watch the ball and go opposite. So ball goes in, screener pops out, or delivery of the handoff pops out in this case, and vice versa. If the ball got switched or double teamed and pushed out, then our screener delivery man would roll in. Same rule we would use on a ball screen, trying to create space between the two and pull that defense apart. So I want to run back over that real quickly so you can see this progression again. So we've got the dribble at, we've got the back cut attempt that's denied, we've got the handoff, dribbler attacks basket, delivery man pops out. So now let's talk about the order of operations. So team attack, think about coming down the court. Again, point guard has the ball in their hands. A lot of coaches spend a lot of time on misdirection, complicated setups to an offense to get started. And, especially at the rec level, the defense is not complicated. They're not very experienced. They're not very well positioned. They're not very good at doing multiple tasks on defense. And so come down the court, attack. If you can drive and score. And keep doing that. You might get the ball in your best layup maker's hands and let them dribble up, maybe cross over their man if necessary, and get all the way to the basket and score. Like, you make 4 or 5 layups on that, you've got an 8 or 10 point lead, and the other team is trying to figure out how to stop you by that point. So if they get a little better at defense, they're probably going to send a double team, right? They're going to help from somebody that's on the perimeter moving in a circle, because we're playing with our circle concept, drive and kick rules. They're going to pull a defender off of a teammate on the perimeter in order to stop this drive that keeps getting a layup. And as soon as your player sees that second defender coming, they should be looking for a kick, and they should know exactly where to find their teammate, and their teammate should be moving in a circle based on which hand they dribbled with, and we got wide open shot opportunities very quickly. Level 3 defense, they're probably going to start by packing everybody in the paint. So instead of having a teammate that's kind of guarded and we're pulling one guy off to stop a drive, with the double team, they're going to put the on-ball defender, in front of the ball. They're going to put everybody else, all 4 other players, if you're playing 5-on-5, are going to be touching the paint. And so there's really no place to drive, right? If you come down the court, it's like 1-on-5, I'm just going to crash into people. And so this is where we'd use our pass and cut, assuming they translate that defensive strategy to whoever has the ball. When you pass, they're all going to be packed in the paint, and they're going to allow the pass to go, and they're going to switch their attention to then guard the guy that caught your pass. And so if you cut, you're going to disrupt that formation, whatever they're set up as. They might be playing zone or whatever in the older age groups. If you cut through the middle of the paint, you're going to pull some attention from the defense because they don't want you to catch a pass back on your cut. And you're going to open up for the next teammate to then do our fill cut, filling behind you, and they're actually going to have a lot of space and advantage when they catch it, where they can shoot it, maybe drive it. They can get a lot of really good attack actions by having that first cut go through that crowd of people in the paint and pull their attention away from the next guy filling behind. And again, maybe refer back to our diagram if you want to see how that looks, or when we get to the court, we'll be walking through a lot of that to tie that together in person and make that experiential factor really make sense of why this works. Number 4, level 4 defense, probably the best defense we're going to see at 5th, 6th grade level. Probably 3, 4, we probably won't ever get to this. Good goal or ideal for you to have is to maybe work up your defense to the point where we can actually deny and still be in position. But 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th for sure, you're going to get better quality defenses, better systems, better players that are experienced by that point, and they're going to be able to probably lock up your best ball handler without them being able to drive one-on-one, and they're likely to be able to have at least 1 or 2 players that are doing a hard deny on a pass to the wing. And so implementing that dribble at kind of takes the pressure off. Like, I often stump players, when I'm in a one-on-one workout and we're talking about this, and I say, all right, you can't drive and you can't pass. What can you do? Right? And they're usually like, I'm going to take a shot. And, my defender's right up on me, stopping me from driving. That's a terrible idea. Or I'm going to call for a ball screen. And, the reason I don't like ball screens, kind of two reasons behind this. One is that you're reliant on the next player being knowledgeable of what a ball screen is, first off, being able to get there, in time and set a good quality screen. There's a lot of things that have to happen. It actually is a much slower play than the dribble at. The second reason is that you're pulling more defense toward the ball versus when you dribble at, we're initially taking defense away from the ball with a back cut attempt, and then we're getting the ball received right into an attack, and we're taking our rule of opposites by having the delivery man pop out. We are pulling the defense apart instantly. And so those 2 reasons, as well as just experience with youth trying to get a pass through to then set a ball screen or call for a ball screen to be set, like all that breaks down much more quickly with our 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th grade age group, especially with beginners. And so dribbling at our teammate leaves the locus of control with the ball handler. Instead of waiting for a teammate to run and save you with a ball screen, you're able to dribble at your teammate. They're going to get out of the way one way or the other, even if they don't know what they're doing. You're going to have some movement and some opportunity come out of that. So this is what I refer to as our order of operations as a team, and you can get individual players comfortable with this as well. If they come down the court with the ball in their hands, you want them thinking this way. Like, option 1, I'm just going to get to the rim and score, drive to the basket every time, And if my teammates are watching my hands, they're going to know where to be, and driving kick's going to kind of flow out of that pretty easily. And if the defense is packed in, I can't drive, I know to pass and cut, get us moving again. We were attacking by cutting instead of driving. We're getting the defense a little bit off balance. And then level 4, if they can come down, recognize they can't drive, they can't pass, and without stopping or hesitating, turn and dribble at a teammate who hopefully is paying attention, isn't able to back cut or get a handoff. Like again, we're into the flow of offense much more quickly without letting the defense get set, without hesitating, and without having to have a scripted offense or instructions from the coach on the sideline, to get moving, where a lot of players and a lot of teams would get frozen if they came down the court in that scenario and didn't have a clear way to attack. So let's talk about the individual side. The order of operations for an individual, which is probably where I've spent more of my time even than the team setting. And really what I've arrived at, simply stated, is to shoot first and drive second. And everybody's first thought is, what about pass? And what I've really concluded over time is that passing should be a secondary layer of decision making, right? When you first catch a pass, we want you to be able to shoot that wide open shot or attack on a drive with an advantage because most likely the defender took away your shot really aggressively and they're out of position. So now we're playing 5-on-4, and your pass is going to be a very easy decision as that secondary layer. You've already attacked, right? If you shot it, the play was over. If you drove it, then you're either getting to a layup or somebody else is coming to stop you because you beat your defender and now they left your teammate open and you can pass, right? So it simplifies things by having it only be shoot or drive. And this is what we call a binary decision. If you're familiar with the basics of computer code, which is where my knowledge stops at the basic level, binary code is just ones and zeros. There's no third option. And you can build an incredible framework of computer software using only binary code. And that's really my approach to basketball decision training, is making sure we have only two options very clearly defined, and based on the situation that we're playing in, we can get those two options very clear to the player so that it's just A or B. I don't have to go look for four other teammates that might be a pass option. And another way to simplify this, again, situational cues, is to talk about driving away from the pass. So it's not even, do I drive right or left as that part 2 of the decision. It is, I am driving automatically away from my pass, away from where there was defense guarding the ball. So I'm attacking the weak side where there's more likely to be space, and thereby having a bigger advantage. And I got to credit Noah Roach with this concept. He calls it rip opposite. Wherever you catch a pass from, rip through the ball and take your first dribble away from where you caught it from. Ripping opposite, driving to the opposite side of the floor, you can create dramatic advantages by just getting that point across to your players as individuals. So we start layering these pieces where they're ready to shoot every time they catch it, they're ready to drive, and they're driving to the weak side, attacking space where there is no defense. We just are layering on, multiplying our advantage. And so we have the conclusion here of shot or drive away from pass as our binary decision. And then we need to talk about the cue. And I talked about this as the pass only after the attack. We kind of talked through that already, but again, if you are attacking and you beat your defender because they were trying to take away your shot and they got themselves out of position, we're playing 5-on-4, and so the part 2 decision is where we think about the pass. And we can layer multiple different actions into that, where players attacking, maybe crossing over, maybe euro stepping, and then either finishing or passing still at the end of that. There could be multiple, I call it chunks or tiers of a decision tree. It's another way to describe it. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on that. If you kind of capture these 5 points in your mind and how these fit together, if you can get your players making decisions And thinking about decisions the same way you would repetitions of any skill. We think about the reps of dribbling a ball. Like we want to get 100 dribbles right now in the next 60 seconds for players in a practice. We want to get the next 10 decisions for this drill, right? We want to get them shooting, driving, based on a live defender. What we're going to talk about as a cue, which is simply the trigger to make the decision by. So the basic framework, kind of what we've been talking about so far here. The shoot versus drive option is a binary decision. We want to be shooting always like an on-off switch. We're on for shot, always shooting until the defender's hand is in our face, and then we drive. And the cool thing about that cue framework is that you don't have to go looking for where that hand is if it's not up. Right? I'm not looking around where my defender hand is and evaluating two equal options. Should I shoot? Should I drive? Should I shoot? Should I drive? It's I am shooting. If hand up, drive. And suddenly all hesitation disappears and we have players making dramatically faster decisions, which is pretty awesome to witness. So, summarizing, the three big offensive tactics: drive and kick, trying to get everybody moving in a circle based on where the ball handler, which hand the ball handler is using to drive. Pass and cut, if we can't get a drive in the paint, defense is clogging it up, we can pass and cut, get some attack movement without the ball having to be driven, and create space for a teammate, most likely filling behind us. And then 3, dribbling at, trying to really exploit what the defense has done. They think they have us locked up by denying our pass and stopping our drive effectively, and we're able to exploit their kind of out of position defense by getting a back cut initially or a handoff to create movement, create attack action that they really don't have a way to stop by having set up that way. And then again, the order of operations, both on the team side, looking through these 3 offensive tactics in order of drive first, pass second, dribble at third, and then on the individual side, simplifying our decision making with an order of operations of 2 options, what I call 2 moves in a cue. I didn't say it that way a minute ago, but my favorite framework to describe that. 2 moves in a cue is shot first, drive second, and again, drive away from the pass so that there's not even a third option of drive right or left. We know where we're going before we catch it, and separating the pass into a second layer decision. After we've already attacked the basket 5-on-4, making our pass decision happen after that point when we know a teammate's going to be wide open. So that's it for week 3. I'm piling a lot of information at you here into our offensive tactics. As always, all this stuff makes more sense on the court, so I look forward to getting you to that point, hopefully with a list of some questions you can ask me, and we can walk through and talk through all the problems we need to troubleshoot to really make this click in your mind and hopefully get you to the point where you're getting the results that I've experienced by having a simple framework that's based on principles and allowing players to really improvise based on that simple set of rules and concepts. So I'll see you on the next one.